Normally when I talk about Torino Cobras, I'll make references to trouser snakes. Well, I'm not gonna do that this time because I've matured. So you can take this beautiful, succulent Cobra and you can suck on it long, hard, and in an alternating fashion. Damn it, I did it again! God bless America. All right, what do we got here? 1970 Ford Torino Super Cobra Jet. And acquiring a Super Cobra Jet Torino in 1970 was kind of a strange ordeal, so hear me out. First, you started with the Torino Cobra. It came with a Thunderjet 429 rated 360 horsepower. Not too bad. Then you had to check a box to get a Cobra Jet. Now the compression ratio is 11.3 to 1, and that thing was rated 370 horsepower. Interestingly, the Cobra Jet came from the factory with a Rochester Quadrajet carburetor. Yeah, a Quadrajet on a Ford. And if you don't believe me, take your greasy little fingies and look it up on Google, dumbass. But remember, this car is a Super Cobra Jet. And as a recap, you gotta get the Torino Cobra, upgrade to the Cobra Jet, and then the final step to get a Super Cobra Jet is option the drag pack. And with the drag pack, you could get either 391 or 430 gears with a Detroit locker. But it wasn't just that. If you got the drag pack, Ford threw in a completely different engine. It was still a 429 cube V8 with a compression ratio of 11.3 to 1. But now you got 4-bolt mains, forged aluminum pistons, a solid lifter cam, a Holley 780, header-style exhaust manifolds, and unique cylinder heads. With all of that, Ford rated the Super Cobra Jet 375 horsepower, which makes this thing about as underrated as my pickup game. You know what I'm talking about. Ford also said that this thing was making 450 pound-feet of torque. And why did Ford do it this way, that you had to get the Torino Cobra, then the Cobra Jet, then the drag pack, and then in the background they just magically gave you this new engine? I don't know. Maybe they were too busy courting their sister. Kidding. Or am I? And now you might be thinking, well, that sounds like a very expensive option. It wasn't. The base Torino Cobra started at $32.70, the Cobra Jet was $164, and then the drag pack to turn it into the Super Cobra Jet was only $207. So for only $371 over the cost of the base Torino Cobra, you could have a Super Cobra Jet. And dare I say that that might be the best value of the entire muscle car era. And if you can think of an option package that you think is of a better value, well then leave a comment. I'm sure that it will spark cordial conversations, because that's what you're all known for. Absolute politeness and deep, meaningful conversation. So if you throw in Ram Air like our featured car, that's another $229, and that would give you a total of $3,870. Adjusting for inflation, that'd be about $31,685 today. As a reminder, you guys, we're on that road to 100,000 subscribers, so make sure you hit the subscribe button. Will you receive anything tangible for that subscription? No. But you will get the feeling of being rewarded for supporting somebody who's absolutely socially inept. This is all I have. It's really sad. This one's got a 4-speed, so that's pretty cool. And then, as you probably figured out back, is a 430 Detroit locker. And then we get to the biggest limitation of these cars, and that is its weight. Some people would say that these Torinos aren't exactly pretty, and they aren't exactly small. But 4,200 pounds, you could say... Surprisingly, even with all that value, they didn't make many of these Super Cobra Jets. Specifically, the cars that came with the 4-speed, there were only 129 that year. CarCraft did test one with a set of 391 rear gears, and it ran 1385 at 104 miles per hour. 1974 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am. And you might be thinking, what type of smogged out garbage is this? First off, shut up. Second off, show some respect. This is a Super Duty 455. And yeah, compression ratio was 8.4 to 1. But do you think that Pontiac is gonna be like my father and say, hey Cars and Zebras, I'll see you at your baseball game tonight, and then never show up while everybody points and laughs at me because I have skid marks on my baseball pads because I'd consumed too much dairy that day? And I know that this is a very complex metaphor, but hang in there. In this case, Pontiac showed up with an extra pair of baseball pants. Here's an internal document from Pontiac that outlines everything they put into that Super Duty 455. Now, I'm not going to go through it item by item. You can pause it if you want. But all you got to take from this is that Pontiac put the best of everything that they absolutely could into this engine. And what does all that equate to? 290 horsepower. And keep in mind, that's net horsepower. And 395 pound-feet of net torque. For comparison's sake, the top-of-the-line Corvette that year with the 454 was only rated 270 horsepower and 380 pound-feet of torque. So you can take your pristine New Balances and your little tiny wee-wee insecurities elsewhere. Pontiac's here to stay, baby! Now, the ratings of the Super Duty 455 might not sound that impressive, but Car and Driver tested one of these cars in 1973, and it had an automatic transmission, and it ran 1375 at 103.5 miles per hour. In stock configuration, that makes this one of the quickest cars of the entire muscle car era, not just 1974. Pontiac's never gonna die, baby! And this car is actually even better than the test car because, well, let's just take a look inside. Pontiac guys, you can start priming that pump because you're about to explode. This one's got a 4-speed manual. And then out back, 342 gears. And this car, you know, it's heavy. It's lighter than the Torino, but that's like me saying that I'm lighter than your mom. It doesn't mean anything. This car is 3,940 pounds. Just like the Torino, these were actually a really good deal. The Trans Am started out at $4,350, and then the Super Duty 455 was only $578. The 4-speed manual's included, so without any other options, you could get this car for $4,928. Adjusting for inflation, it's almost exactly the same as the Torino at $31,754. And like the Torino Super Cobra Jet, they didn't sell many of these, which I find to be quite a surprise. There were only 943 Super Duty Trans Am cars that year. If you break that down into those that have a 4-speed, that was only about 212. Well, I guess we'll just have to see what these two rare muscle cars will do on the drag strip.
Through 1450 of 100.
In the first round, the Trans Am was quicker, but unfortunately they got a red light, and that gives the automatic win to the Torino, who ran 14.15 seconds at 100 miles per hour. Let's see what happens in round 2.
Next up, Bradley Pringle. 74 Trans Am, 455 going up against Chris Jones, 74 Torino, 429. The win will go to the SD. The win will go to the SD.
No red lights in this race, so it's the Trans Am that takes home the win, running a 1385 at 103 miles per hour. With things tied 1-1, let's check out that final round.
With traction compounds, tires, anything like that. A lot of it technology. Chris Jones is going to go through at 1408. He will put that a lot.
And in the final round, it's the Trans Am that takes home the win, running 14 seconds flat at 103 miles per hour. Huge thanks to the owners for bringing out these cars. They are absolutely awesome. And don't forget, we're on that road to 100,000 subscribers, baby. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, give me a like, and then I'll see you at the next one.